you two doing right now?
Very good.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Good. Glad to hear. We got a lot to get into because, man, it was a whirlwind of a four legs for the two of you.
It
Before
was.
we even get into that, though, I would love to hear from the two of you. Obviously, you are very accomplished business owners in your own right. You lead such a busy life. I'm
Yes.
super intrigued. What led you to decide to go on to The Amazing Race? Were you fans of the show beforehand? What made you decide to take the jump, for lack of a better term, from the couch onto the
Hey,
show?
like what you did with that, Mike. Um,
Go ahead. You
so
say
so
one.
so basically they actually reached out to us. So my wife and I, we have a podcast online. It's called In Less Than a Minute,
Yes.
where we teach random people and
In random places.
how to jump double dutch in less than 1 minute. So
Yep.
we'll just walk up to you and be like, "Hey, Mike, you know how to jump?
Mhm.
Good. If you
Yes.
don't, we'll teach you." So
Yes.
it was that kind of thing, and they loved our personalities,
And so
and they were like, "You guys would be great for The Amazing Race." And I was just like, I've watched a few episodes of Amazing Race, and I saw how challenging that is. I was like, "You guys really think we could do this?" It's like, okay. But then we binge watched.
we been
Every season.
single-
We watched every season.
and we was watching it like, okay. But
But we were also taking notes. We were like, okay, so
Yeah.
here's what we got to do. If we're in this situation, we got to do this.
Yeah.
So,
But we decided to do it because as entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
and even during the show, we're always asking people to be uncomfortable. Like, people are scared. They've never jumped double dutch. They're genuinely scared. We've had people cry on us
shaking in the ropes.
when they've learned. And so we were like, well, we always put people in that position. We need to start putting ourselves in those positions so that we can grow too, but also we could feel the way the way that our audience feels.
And then,
so,
okay, go ahead. No, you go.
And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm down for an adventure, especially with this one here.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
I think that's something new. Like this would be amazing because we are entrepreneurs together and we are married.
Yeah.
You know,
we have 3 kids.
That's an adventure within itself.
Yeah.
But also it was like, oh wow, let's do this because this is a situation where we're really both challenged.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's coming. We have no idea what's coming, so.
And I've been asking like, oh, I want to travel the world with my husband. And so then when this phone call came in, I was like, oh, wow, God, you really listened to me.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I took it as a sign also to like, this was like, when does this fall in your, like, when does this come? You have to do it.
Because that's the biggest thing we wanted to do is just travel around the world.
And the only reason we weren't going to is because our son Maverick had just turned 1.
Oh, wow.
And also, this is our 3rd kid in 4 years, so I was a little thicker than I, expect myself to be.
Yeah, I almost said no.
Yeah, because
I almost said no because
he just started walking.
He just started walking, and I was scared that he wouldn't recognize us when we came back, and I was just like, "There's no way. There's no way I'm going to leave my son. He's too young."
I mean, the good news is he could watch you on TV like a year later and be like, "Oh, those are my parents." Now I see. Well, I want to talk about now sort of.
Right.
Yeah, let's fast forward to where things ended here because look, I mean, I saw the sun was in a bit of a different position in the sky by the time you checked in. Michelle, talk to me about what was happening with the roadblock and how much later were you there after Krishma ended up leaving?
I think it was about maybe a year later. No, it's what it felt like.
Felt like
it was very. I don't know time. Like I can't think of time, but it wasn't like, oh, it wasn't a little bit after. It genuinely got darker. Like it was a long time.
I can tell you, we were there for hours.
We were there. My legs were on fire running back and forth. I lost 8 pounds running back and forth.
Yeah, because the task is like around the corner from each other. So you have to run around this long, like, I don't know, we're from New York, this long New York block, go around the corner, look at the clue, then run back around the corner.
Time.
I swear Michelle must have did it like 100 times. It had to be. I was sitting there like, oh my God, how is she still going? She just kept going. And it didn't work out for us.
It didn't work out for us.
But
it did.
But it did.
Yeah.
Well, what I find so interesting is that like you're doing well in that first leg, maybe helped by the roadblock being your wheelhouse, but you finish in the top half of teams, and then from then on, it really does seem like it was just a fall and then staying there. Do you credit that to anything? What made you? Because in the Amazing Race, ideally, you should be able to claw your way up from any position. Was there something continuous between your 3 finishes in the bottom?
Well, I don't know if y'all saw, but we actually jumped up to like fifth again right before the roadblock. So when we got to the artsy thing, there were a lot of clues in the box. So we had jumped back up to at least maybe six, maybe at like least six. Maybe six. We had jumped back up. And then
we got caught in traffic, a lot of traffic on the way there. And
and that roadblock,
that roadblock.
Yeah, they didn't show the numbers, but it started going down. But we did jump back up. It's not like we came in last at the roadblock. It just took me forever.
You know what it is too? I think because of the other three legs, right? The other three shows. This particular show, the night before, Michelle and I, we were like, we're gonna get focused. All right, what are we doing wrong?
Yes, that's what we were talking about.
Right? We were like, what are we doing wrong? Let's fix this. Okay, so we got to fix A, B, C, and D. Bet. So when we got there, that's why the first half of the leg, we were
doing good.
We were in our stride, and I felt good. I was like, Michelle, this is how we're supposed to be moving. And then we hit that roadblock, and it was just like,
and that was the worst because the night before we were last.
Yes.
And we were muddy, so I stayed up all night clean. I didn't sleep the night before.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So a memory thing was out. That's exactly what it was for me.
Well, one of those struggles that you had in that first Columbia leg was you talk about, always wanting to teach people that it's okay being uncomfortable. Sean, I mean, you were uncomfortable AF on that hillside, scooting your way down.
Who are you telling, Mike? Who are you telling? I made the decision even before I went on the Amazing Race. I've been working on myself, right? Because, you got to be intentional, right? So I'm like, I got to push past my fears because I don't like anything holding me back. No. And everybody knows at this point that I'm terrified of heights. And so for me, it was actually an opportunity. Like when I found out that we were going to jump, I was like, I'm going for it. That's it. I'm going for it.
No, he's talking about,
you talking about on the hill?
I think that's a good segue though, until you had that moment, and I would imagine that also helped you really go into that leg, being like, "Yes, this is a second chance for me to really face my fears."
Exactly. Right. So just going back to the hill was rough. The thing is, it was so high, it was so slippery, and to me, it felt unsafe. So it was more about feeling, and it wasn't, but to me, because I'm so terrified of heights, it felt like it was unsafe. It felt like I was going to slip off because it felt like there was, if I was to slide, there was nothing to hold on to. There was no trees, there was nothing to hold on to. And so that's what made me nervous the first time I was on the hill. That's the part that you guys probably couldn't see, because it was pouring outside.
It was and I will say this, since then, after the race, I took him skydiving for his birthday this year. So when I say we face our fears, okay.
You got to push through.
And before the race, he wouldn't have gone. So the race really helped us to realize how much we don't grow anymore as adults. Sometimes we don't put ourselves in position to face. We get used to our comforts. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the race really allowed us to explore. Yes. And we want to continue to explore. And I was inspired from the race.
And it's just like I always say, on the other side of fear is freedom.
Hello.
Yeah, so I love that quote. Well, what I find so interesting about, your relationship as well is that we sort of see this manifest in a different case in Amber and Vinny. It can be really difficult when, you feel that your partner is slowing down, holding back, struggling in a task, etc. It must be torturous as that partner to both feel supportive, but also kind of have one eye on the clock, being like, okay, we're in a race for $1 million, whether it be Sean's struggle down the hill or Michelle's struggles in the roadblock. Did either one of you have difficulty with that of hey, you are my life partner, my business partner, but also hurry the F up. We got $1 million to win.
It was actually just the opposite. We didn't do that at all. It was because we work together all the time. So there was, the first two episodes was crazy. I never ran so much in my entire life. So we were running through the streets, and Michelle, as you saw on television, Michelle was like, Sean, I can't breathe. I said, no, Michelle, it's because you're not breathing.
And he told me how to breathe.
And I just taught her how to breathe. I was like, you got to breathe. We got to breathe on the rhythm. Let's go. We were encouraging each other the entire race. To me, screaming at her or, oh my God, we don't have enough time. That takes too much time. For me, it's just all right, let's get focused. Here's what you do to fix it. Let's fix it. You tie it. Here's how you fix it so that we can keep going.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time to be like, oh, you gotta come on, you gotta keep up.
For me, I didn't want him to quit. So quitting, I want to win the $1 million. That's what I wanted to win the $1 million. But you can't win if you quit.
You can't.
So my thing to him when we was on the hill, it was my biggest thing was like, oh my God, like my son, specifically my son Sean Jr. will watch you and he copies everything his dad does. So I was like, oh my God, if Sean Jr. sees you quit, we are in trouble. And even that, my son saw the commercials and then we had to show him because it was too late for him to stay up that night, but we had to show him the next day when he faced it and how it made it like, he was like, oh, and he's like watching it like, oh, you guys are, all the things we tell them, it's like we're doing it. And so that was playing in my mind when he was on the hill. I was like, babe, like for real.
Because I mean, that's a big deal for us. Like our children are everything.
Everything.
And we, our children, even at work, they come with us to work.
Yep.
They watch us build our business. They watch us, as entrepreneurs. They watch us work hard. They watch us fight. They watch us win. They watch us lose. And all of that is important for us. So, my children are everything.
That's
the biggest part.
Well, I was like, we can't quit no matter what.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Well, going back to your claim to fame and, this idea that you can teach anyone double dutch, now it makes so much sense how we ended the episode the way that we did. But how did that come together? Did you show up at the pit stop and they say, here's 2 ropes, let's do this thing? Did it take Phil a minute to learn how to double dutch?
No, that's not how it works.
When we were going to find Phil, I was like, listen, we might as well go out with a bang. You feel me? Because I clearly, I was like, we always had the ropes with us. Even now here, we always have the ropes with us, period.
We said before the race that we're going to try to get Phil in these ropes.
That was one of the missions.
That was literally one of the missions. We were like,
it's like we say we could teach you in less than a minute. And they're like, oh, not me. And it's like, no, you don't get it. We can literally teach anybody in less than a minute. So when we got to the mat, it was great because it was concrete. Yeah, so if we would have got out the day the first Columbia leg,
in that muddy grass,
it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked.
So it had to be concrete. So when it was concrete, I said, all right, Jesus. And then
but really,
Phil
was like, yes.
And I was like, come on.
He almost kind of reminded us. Like, and we were like, okay, Phil, let's go.
Because we were like, we're gonna teach anybody here, anybody willing, we are ready to teach you. And so we asked him on the mat and he said yes.
And by the way, we had Phil going, the rope hit the camera. That's the only reason why it stopped. Because Phil he'd been jumping till the next leg.
Was there anybody else you did that with? I know you didn't have a lot of downtime and not a lot of interaction with teams. Was there anybody else where in a season that apparently is all about like building alliances, you're like, listen, if you tell me where to go, I'll teach you how to double touch in less than a minute?
Well, I don't know if we'll leave that to
it might be a surprise. It's a surprise.
I don't know.
Look, Mike, maybe not.
Okay, there we go.
We can say.
Leave it up in the air. Well, last thing I want to ask is, you two came onto the race. One reason was also that this was the first time for you in a while to really focus on each other, between the business, between the kids. I would love to learn from each of you. What is the biggest thing you learned from the other person racing around the world together? Michelle, we'll start with you.
I'll start with, so in our dynamic, so I've suffered from infertility. I'm the one that actually gave birth. So Sean has been in a position a lot of times in our relationship to push me up because I've always been kind of like, going through things, you know what I'm saying? So this time, what I realized in our relationship is that we could switch dynamics and I could do that for him as well. So it's not a one-sided. It's just like when I'm up and he's down, we know how to do that for each other. So that was a big thing during the race. Also, when you're entrepreneurs, I always say this, you don't have coworkers. Like, you live amongst your world. And so this world that we're trying to build of positivity, keep going. When you're put in circumstances like the race, you can't fake. Like whoever you are really comes out.
That's right.
And so
100%.
To watch ourselves be there, it's like, oh, all the work works.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All the work that you try to do on yourself works. So even seeing him face his fears or even seeing him being positive, it's just like, oh, because we live in our bubble, watching outside yourself, it's just like, you know what? I like the person I see also outside of me and the person I'm with, if that makes any sense.
Of course. Sean, what about you?
I mean, I think Michelle summed it up. I think for me, because I'm always the one, encouraging, like pulling us through, it did feel good to know that, it's like I felt safe. It's like I feel safe to know that she can do the same thing if I needed to. I mean, I know that already, even in our relationship, but in the most challenging situation, I know that if I needed it, she would be there to pick me up.
Yeah, I mean, watching the two of you over the course of this, and listen, as I mentioned before, I think the circumstances you were under for most of your race could make even the strongest couples crack. And the fact that I think you both walked through this and even like encouraged each other through some very pressurized moments just goes to show how much you love and respect and understand each other. And I'm so happy, you walked down, maybe not with $1 million, but with the fear of heights conquered. Like, that's the next best thing.
No, you know what it is too. It's the like I said on the show the other day. It's we're all going for the $1 million. Let's be very clear. We're going for the $1 million. But seriously, as soon as Phil says go, you really realize that the experience is the prize.
Yes.
Period. It really is. So that's why we lost. But we lost the race, but we gained so much.
We gained so much.
It's really hard to say that we lost. Yeah. We didn't even feel bad. It was just like, wow, we gained so much. I jumped off a mountain.
Yeah, and that helps in business.
It's crazy.
So we're as entrepreneurs, you have fears in your natural life, right? Yep. Yeah. And so I think what it also does is like doing stuff like skydiving and the Amazing Race. You're less scared during that proposal. You're less scared to pitch that idea. You're less scared to you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're less like scared.
You could do anything. It feels like you can do anything.
So it kind of it pushes you. It reflects in other areas of your life. So the prize is, I jumped. We did not win $1 million, but we definitely feel like winners.
I jumped out of a plane 15,000 feet in the air for my birthday.
We did it together
after the Amazing Race.
Yeah. And I pet dogs. So I had a bad fear of dogs.
That's right.
I don't know. Well, clearly y'all watched the show, right? In Colombia and Mexico, nobody cares about your fear dogs. Dogs are walking around the street like they birds. And so there was what they didn't show, but we were running. It was a pit bull. Mm-hmm. Oh my God! And Sean said,
"Michelle, come on. We gotta go, baby. Michelle, we're okay. Look, I'll block you. You come around me. Let's go."
And I have been petting dogs. I have been less scared of being around dogs.
That is a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yes, because those countries, they don't dog fear.
The community takes care of the dog.
Yes.
Well, every dog has its day, and I'm so glad we took this day to talk. This was so much fun. I love the light that you brought on screen, and even more off, perhaps. I just love what you get to do, and getting the chance to talk with you was such a delight. So thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be watching as usual.
All right. Well, all the best to you and the kids and the business. And thanks so much again. Have a great one.